stranger sent $1 million to my bank account by mistake, and after going to court, it's now legally mine. It was a normal Tuesday morning when I logged into my bank app half asleep just to check if my paycheck had cleared. At first, I thought I was still dreaming. The balance read $1,023.47. I blinked, refreshed the app. Same number, $1 million. My first instinct was that the bank had made some kind of insane mistake. I'd never even seen that many zeros in my life. I worked a retail job, lived paycheck to paycheck. The idea of having 7 figures in my account felt like a glitch in the matrix. For about 5 minutes, I let myself dream. Pay off my student loans, buy a car that didn't wheeze every time I turned the ignition, maybe even put a down payment on a house. But then reality set in. Money like that doesn't just appear. Someone, somewhere, would notice. I decided I'd go down to the bank after work and explain. Keep it clean, keep it safe. But before I even made it to my shift, there was a knock at my door. A tall man in a dark suit stood there, not a banker. He looked more like the kind of guy who escorts mob bosses into court. Slicked back hair, expensive shoes, and a stare that made my stomach twist. "You received something that doesn't belong to you," he said without introducing himself. "We'd like it back." My throat went dry. "Look, I was just about to..." He cut me off. "Don't play dumb. A transfer was made. Wrong account. That money isn't yours. You're going to send it back today." I didn't ask how he knew my address. I didn't ask who he worked for. I just nodded. He slipped me a card with a phone number on it and walked away like nothing had happened. That night, I barely slept. Everything in me screamed to call the cops, but something about the man's tone made me think that wouldn't end well. So instead, I did the one thing I could think of. I called my dad. Now, my dad isn't just some average guy. He's an accountant who spent 30 years untangling financial fraud. When I told him what happened, he didn't even sound surprised. "Don't touch the money," he said firmly. "And don't call that number. If they transferred it by mistake, it's traceable. The bank has to handle it. If they bypass the bank to come straight to you, that means the money isn't just a mistake, it's dirty. Dirty, as in illegal." 2 days later, I went into the bank to explain. The manager pulled up my account, frowned, and said, "That's odd." Then she excused herself, made a phone call, and came back looking nervous. "Legally," she said, "we can't reverse the transaction without a court order. The deposit wasn't flagged as fraud. Unless you authorize a transfer out, the money stays." I walked out of that bank with my head spinning. $1 million just sitting there, and no one could take it unless I agreed. Meanwhile, the man in the suit kept showing up. First at my job, then parked across the street from my apartment. Always watching, always waiting. Finally, I snapped. I called the police, filed a harassment report, and gave them his description. They started investigating, and here's where things turned upside down. Turns out the money hadn't come from a mistake. It had come from an international laundering ring. The FBI had been monitoring accounts connected to the operation, and somehow, mine had gotten caught in the middle. The man in the suit wasn't a banker. He wasn't even from a company. He was one of the guys under investigation. When the FBI pulled him in, they confirmed what my dad suspected. The money was dirty. But here's the twist. Because I had reported it immediately, cooperated with investigators, and hadn't touched a dime, the government couldn't classify me as part of the scheme. And because the ring had already forfeited assets to the state, the funds in my account were considered unclaimed property. After months of paperwork, hearings, and legal back and forth, the decision came down. The money, what was left after seizures and fees, was legally mine to keep. $1 million, mine. I'll never forget the look on my dad's face when the letter came through. He just shook his head and said, "Sometimes the system actually works in your favor." As for the man in the suit, last I heard, he was facing federal charges. And me? I paid off every debt I had, moved into a house I never thought I could afford, and bought my mom the car she always wanted. But then, one night, about a week after moving into the new place, there was a knock at my door. Slow, heavy, 3 times. When I opened, a man in the exact same dark suit was standing there, and he was not happy. Full story on channel. Press below.